On DC Music Rocks, we're shining a spotlight on the great songs, artists, and incredible people behind the DC region's local music scene. Maxx Myrick is an award-winning air personality, radio programmer, and content expert with over 40 years of experience providing content on local and national levels. He's currently the talent buyer for Bethesda Jazz and Blues Supper Club and programming director for DC Radio, which is 96.3 FM HD4 or dcradio.gov. His past experience includes work for XM Satellite Radio, like he just mentioned, in New York City. He created the Real Jazz Channel, and then he also was operations manager, programming director at Clear Channel, Chicago's WVAC and 106 Jams. Maxx is the recipient of every major radio award, including Music Association's Icon Award and the Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Association of Black Broadcasters. And after saying all that, it's just exciting that I met him because through doing DC Music Rocks, my show airs also on 96.3 HD4 on DC Radio, and I was honored when I first got connected with him back when we were talking about doing that connection and having the episodes air, and I've been working with him ever since, and he's truly an incredible dude, and I'm honored that you'd be here and you do this with me, Maxx. This is exciting to have you on the show.
It's an honor to be here with you after listening to your show. It's an honor to be here in the studio with you.
My goodness. And now, can you talk a little bit about, so we talked about Bethesda Jazz and Blues, we talked about DC Radio. Can you expand on those just a little? What's your involvement
DC Radio is, I've spent my career building radio stations around the country, Chicago, Atlanta, New York, DC. I was also at WHUR here in DC for 4 years.
Wow.
Prior to coming to the DC Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment, which is what DC Radio is a part of. It's an extension
fantastic.
Of that wonderful brand, which also has the DCN Television, DKN Television, and DCC Television.
Wow. So there's 3 channels, there's radio now. DC's really got a lot going on with the entertainment.
Yeah, and the Office of Film is in there as well. It's film, television, the DC Office of Cable television,
film, music, and entertainment.
It's the longest acronym.
It really is, right? I know they must catch some heat for that. It's OCTFME all together. I met somebody and they're like, no, it's music and entertainment. It's the Office of Music and Entertainment.
That's what it is. I mean, we're trying to, we want, our goal is to give the people of DC a reason to stay here. You know, we have the tools. We have a mayor and a director who are devoted to giving the citizens of DC an opportunity, and so that's what we're there for.
Wow, and it really, the result is pretty amazing. If you check out some of the content you guys have, it really is targeted for the local scene. I mean, actually talk about that. Talk about the station and what's on there.
Well, one of the shows that we carry, of course, is DC Music Rocks.
You flatter me, sir.
But no, seriously, when we were first trying to figure out, because the station has governmental programming, of course.
Sure.
We have a show with the Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton. We have a show with the Metro Police Department. We have a show with the Mayor's Office, the LaToya Foster. We have, we have shows with the business, the different agencies. But we also wanted to have a outlet for the local creative community. We've also created Tool to Create. That's part of our wheelhouse as well.
We've talked about that tagline on the show. Absolutely.
So we wanted to also give the talent and the creatives in DC a place to get exposure. Get exposure. And so one of the first programs that one of the first people that we reached out to was Brian Nelson Palmer, DC Music Rocks, because you play.
I'm blushing over here. I'm blushing.
We have to service all 8 wards, and we have to provide programming for the entire city.
Yeah.
So your program addresses that.
That's
so
true.
So that was we were pleased that you said you would allow us to put your program on DC Radio.
I am honored to be a part of the family, Maxx. It really is a treat. And talk briefly about, now you've got experience as a talent buyer now too. Is that like a side thing that you do, or how does that fit into the career?
It's a little part-time thing I do. I've been in this business for 40 years.
Yeah.
And I've done all kinds of things. I've done small events, big events. We've done, when I was in Chicago, we used to do something called Unity Day, which was an annual free concert that was in Washington Park on the south side of Chicago. We had 1 million people show up every year.
Holy smokes!
It was so big we had to film it from a helicopter. It was just crazy. So I'm used to.
That's a pretty big event.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We did other events. Hey, I'm used to doing big scale things.
Yeah.
And the same thing with the radio stations. All the radio stations that I've built have gone on to become big radio stations, and that's the plan, to make this radio station a station that the other cities want to have.
Yeah.
We want to be the model for that. And so we have a very diverse array of programming for the artists, local artists and creatives, and also we provide our goal is to be as transparent as we possibly can for the local government, to give the local government a voice, keep people informed.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of those things.
Now that kind of ties right into one of my next questions, or the thing I love to ask too, is so what makes DC radio special, do you think?
Well, it's first of all, it's a local radio station. Mm-hmm. It's in DC, for DC.
Yeah.
By DC.
Yeah.
And I mean, that right there makes it pretty special.
In today's day and age of top 40 radio of national broadcast, that's definitely special.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the radio has changed. It's very difficult for content to get on commercial radio. We're a non-commercial radio station, so we don't have the constraints of commercials. We're commercial free all the time.
Yeah.
And we run long form programming. So our programs, have depth. I mean, it's not just a little short interview. We have, our shows are hour, half hour, and they're very diverse. We have, as I mentioned earlier, world music programs. We have the Putumayo World Music Hour.
Yeah.
We have a show called the Brazilian Hour that we do with in conjunction with the Brazilian Embassy. And we've got a few more surprises coming down the pike.
Well, absolutely. I feel like this is definitely something. Stay tuned, because there's exciting things coming from you and what you got planned for DC Radio.
Oh yeah, we want to make it really big.
Talk about your connection with DC. Now you've been in the scene you've been back and forth. You've lived here multiple times. What's your history with DC?
I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
At V103 in Chicago for about a decade.
Okay.
And then I had been studying technology. I've been in radio since I was 14, since I was in high school.
Wow, and since you're like 21 now.
Since I'm just a couple of years. And so the way it got started was back in, whenever that was.
Yeah.
I was like I would always be the DJ at my family's parties. I would, go to the store and get,
Yep.
And so I was very fascinated by radio. And I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, which is right next to Detroit and also next to the Canadian border. So we listened to Canadian radio, a station called CKLW, which was bigger than life. Everything about it was just bigger. So I was fascinated with that. And then in high school, I got an opportunity to go on the local radio station, the local FM, because AM was still king at that time.
Yeah. And
do the high school update. Here's what's happening at all the high schools.
Wow.
So that was where I got that's where I got bitten by the radio bug. And then, I went in the Marine Corps.
Oh, goodness.
And,
okay.
We were out, overseas and on a ship for like a year in the Mediterranean, and so they had a ship's entertainment system.
And you were the DJ of that.
I was, of course, was the DJ.
My God, I'm sensing a theme here. There's a lot of DJ. So, but bring it back then to the DC part.
So what happened was I was in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I had been studying the technology.
Sure.
Because I've seen the technology go from 45 to 8-track, just all the way through.
Yeah.
And so I had been studying satellite radio because I put the country's first satellite radio station on in Richmond, Virginia back in 1989.
Wow.
It was what we did was we had a signal in Petersburg, and then their station in Spotsylvania came on and interfered with our signal in Richmond. So we bought the station in Spotsylvania.
Uh-huh.
So then we took the signal, uplinked it in Richmond, and then we sent it back down via satellite, and then we increased our signal.
That's right. Okay.
And that was the first satellite radio.
First satellite radio.
So having been familiar with the technology when XM satellite radio was about to launch, a friend of mine contacted me and asked me if I'd be interested in going, and at a certain point in your career, you want new challenges.
Sure.
And I could see where that was going. Mm-hmm. And so I came to Washington, D.C. and built the Real Jazz channel. There's another channel called The Flow, which was the Neo Soul channel.
Wow.
And Luna, which was the Latin Jazz channel.
Good gracious.
And I produced, Wynton Marsalis and Quincy Jones. And
some of the jazz greats.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I was, and the whole station was done from it was done from a jazz fan's point of view.
Sure.
Which is what they wanted. So then I stayed there for 8 years, and then I took 4 years off.
You took a break?
I took a break, moved to Nashville, Tennessee.
I love it.
It was
and that's a music fan's dream.
That was a music town. Yeah, it's a music town. It was
gracious.
It was, and then it was time to come back. So I came back with the WHUR for about 4 years and took another little break, and then I got asked to come over and help build this radio station, and so now we're
I'm excited that you're. I was gonna say I'm excited that you're here at the helm of this one now too. It's awesome that you came back. Now talk to us outside of this work thing. What kind of hobbies you got? Your personal life, and what kind of things do you do outside of work?
Besides music, I see a lot of live music. Of course I book talent as well, and I play music on the radio. But I really like going to see live music. I'm a real music fan.
I'm guessing jazz.
I like everything. I like jazz. I like EDM. I like world music. I like everything. I just heard. I went to see an artist from some island off of Finland. It was the most interesting music. I go to a lot of those embassy events.
Sure.
And they always showcase their countrymen. So, I like that, and I like traveling.
Absolutely. Where you been to lately? Anything exciting?
Well, I used to go to Brazil a lot.
Nice.
And it's been a while, but I think I'm going to re-engage.
Make a trip back there sometime.
With that country soon, yeah.
I like to re-engage with that country. Some people make a trip. Maxx chooses to re-engage with that country. I love it.
I love the culture.
That sounds like a much better trip than just taking a trip, is to re-engage with Brazil. Yeah. It sounds so much better.
It's a wonderful culture.
Now, one of my favorite questions to ask when folks are on the show is, if you could offer one piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, this is a tough business, and it's gotten tougher over time because of various reasons. But one thing somebody told me at the beginning was to keep your integrity. There's lots of temptations along the way, and
like, what's an example of that when you say a temptation?
Well, I mean, I never succumbed to the things that some people succumb to, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
I see. Okay.
But there were people who did, and I saw people go down. I mean, I saw people's whole careers get ruined, and then, you have to be a stand-up person. You have to be honest. You have to keep your integrity. And the reason that I'm still in the game 40 years later is because I kept my integrity. I never sacrificed that. I never would do it.
So don't sacrifice your integrity.
That's a big thing. And then stick with it. I mean, right now is a wonderful opportunity for those who want to get into the business, because we're at a paradigm shift with the internet.
It's true. Say a little bit about that.
Well, the technology keeps moving on, but right now, the next superstars of radio are going to come online.
It's true. Yeah, podcasts and some of that other stuff.
You think about Apple Radio, for example. Mm-hmm. They paid this guy from England all this money to go to be a curator, and that's all amazing, online. Right?
Yeah,
it's all online.
It's all there.
So if you can create something as an individual and generate enough interest, they'll come looking for you.
That's pretty incredible. Max, I like it. And now, one more time, for those folks who want to get in touch with you or find out the cool things that you're doing with DC Radio and stuff, where do they go?
Just go to dcradio.gov.